Hi, and welcome to the Office of Career Strategy's OCI Info Session. I'm Rob Kikasi, Executive Director in OCS. We'll talk today about some of the basic logistical and strategy considerations around on-campus interviewing, more commonly known as OCI. The information in this session is best understood and operationalized through reference to our other resources. We'll keep things fairly general in this video. Go deeper by watching Private Sector 201 and engaging with our Canvas modules. In terms of the logistics or the mechanics of OCI, here are some of the topics we'll cover. The when, where, who, and how of the program. Starting with the logistics point, OCI takes place virtually from August 2nd through 5th. It consists of a series of 20-minute screening interviews. We think it's important to contextualize the program. Increasingly, OCI is the culmination and not the start of the recruiting season for certain employers. In recent years, a season of direct applications and employer engagement has preceded OCI. So while OCI remains a robust opportunity to connect with employers, students should expect and plan for recruiting activity in advance of August. After OCI screening interviews, successful candidates will move on to what we call a callback phase. Callbacks are typically a series of interviews with attorneys at the firm, all held back-to-back. In years past, the firm has hosted the callbacks at their office, paying for travel for each student. It's too early as we record in early April of 2021 to know whether callbacks will be virtual or in person this year. We do expect that callbacks will again take place on a rolling basis. Typically, students do not continue their 1L summer employment or plan for vacations in the week between OCI and the beginning of classes. Instead, they leave the period open for any callback interviews that they may be invited to. After callbacks, hiring decisions are made, also on a rolling basis. Because offers are given on that rolling basis, it's to your advantage to schedule a callback as soon as possible after your screening interview. Where is OCI? Well, this year, as it did earlier in the last recruiting cycle, OCI will take place virtually. After an overall successful virtual OCI experience in the previous cycle, employers are welcoming of this format. Georgetown hosts the program on InternX, a third-party platform that collects documents and schedules and hosts the video interviews. You'll have to register for InternX later this year, just after exams. OCI at Georgetown and peer schools is typically populated by large firms with major corporate clients, and they often have offices around the U.S. and in international cities. As many of you know, these firms are often referred to collectively as Big Law. These firms hire through a summer associate model, wherein students are vetted for and offered summer positions nearly a year before their summer start date. In the vast majority of cases, that summer position leads to a postgraduate offer. It is uncommon for public interest employers, smaller firms, and in-house employers to adhere to this timeline or to recruit in this way. While OCI employers represent offices around the globe, a large share are from New York and DC, the two largest legal markets in the country. Students interested in other markets should of course target relevant employers at OCI, and they should expect to pursue these employers through outreach and direct applications in the lead up to August. In late May, OCS will release via Simplicity the initial roster of firms registered for OCI. Two steps need to be taken for a student to participate in OCI in August. First, submit a bid list in Simplicity in July, more on this in a moment, and second, register with InternX after exams, uploading a resume and a transcript to complete that registration. When we say bid, we're referring to the process of selecting and ranking which of the visiting firms you'd most like to interview with in August. To do so, you assign the firm a ranking in Simplicity and attach both a resume and a transcript. You may rank up to 50 firms. Once all the bids are in on July 13th, the process of distributing interviews will then begin. Georgetown's is a hybrid process, wherein the employer has some choice of whom they meet, and students have some choice as well. For step one of this process, employers receive a packet of resumes and transcripts from any student who bid on them. Firms at that point are able to choose 30% of the candidates whom they will interview. That's an average of 6 interviews for the given schedule. Firms do not know where you rank them. At step 2, the remaining 70% of the firm's interview schedule is populated via a sorting algorithm that accounts for student ranking choices and seeks to maximize the number of total interviews taking place during OCI. It's important to remember that there are a finite number of interviews available for each office or each firm. Accordingly, simplicity allows for a distribution of interviews when there are more interview requests than slots. The lottery focuses on how high on your bid list you rank a firm, as well as how many interview slots are available. Interviews are not distributed based on GPA, when in the season you show interest in a firm, location preference, or any other measure. It's a matter of how high on your bid list you place the firm and how many other students bid on that firm and where they put it on their bid list. An important note here. Firms will take those other factors, including GPA and location preference, practice area preference, into account during the interview, so it's important to consider them when creating your bid list. We'll have much more guidance on bidding via Canvas and in our individual advising appointments over the summer. Other than completing the two mechanical steps above, submitting a bid list and registering for InternX, there are no requirements for participating in OCI. But, and this is a large but here, there are some expectations that we have for students, and these are really designed to maximize your success. Here are those expectations. First, watch this info session. Well done, you're halfway through it. Second, have your advisor review your resume. We strongly recommend using our resume template at the bottom on our cover letter and resume page. It's the foundational document of OCI, and you want it to look sharp. Third, meet with an advisor to individualize your strategy. And finally, practice your interview skills. Interviews are more important than ever in this recruiting climate. So when thinking about strategy, let's turn to a few strategy points to keep in mind as you prepare for OCI. Again, it's really important to do a deeper dive on these themes by watching Private Sector 201, staying current with our Canvas modules, and then meeting with your OCS advisor to individualize all that information. Okay, OCI gets a lot of attention, but it's not necessarily for everyone. Take a look at our pro-con list here to see where you stack up. Now, it's worth stressing a point in the first column. Many students look to 2L OCI because it is the most likely road to big law. The 3L market, historically, has been quite small, and so to get to a large firm, a summer associate position is really important. We encourage you to reflect on which of these and other points resonate with you. OCS and OPIX advisors are standing by to talk about if and how OCI fits into your near and longer-term career strategy. When we say target good matches, we want to encourage you to meet with firms that are a good fit for you and where you're a good fit for them. The most successful OCI participants keep in mind that this process and the broader big law recruiting season is one of matching what you want out of the firm and what the firm wants out of its candidates. Now, it seems obvious, but at times we've seen students overemphasize their preferences and expectations at the expense of the business needs and industry position of the firms that they target. Remember that there are two sides of the table when it comes to securing a position. Our targeting law firm modules builds out a lot of these principles and gives you action steps to take to consider them. As noted, it's best to think of OCI as the culmination of a recruiting process. Employers have become more active in engaging with students throughout 1L. Think about the Meet the Firm events, practice area presentations, and chats with student groups you may have seen come your way. These are a way to build brand awareness and begin to track interested candidates. Maintaining engagement with firms demonstrates such interest, and that's become an important success factor in recruiting. Consistent engagement can help generate interview opportunities at or before OCI, and it can provide the basis of a strong interview performance. We expect another robust direct application season, during which firms will consider candidates formally or informally in advance of OCI. This may be most pronounced for offices with smaller classes and/or in secondary markets. So critically, do not wait until August to engage with and apply to such employers. As suggested by the above, late spring and early summer should be quite active on the careers front. Prepare to make OCI prep along with your 1L summer position a job in itself. Expect to be attending virtual events, researching, setting up one-on-one informational meetings, and meeting with OCS to give yourself the best chance to succeed. We'll be here all summer, and we expect to be hosting advising sessions and other programs to meet with you and get you ready for the program. And we hit this point earlier. OCI is big, our biggest recruiting program by a margin, but it does not contain every private sector employer, nor does it contain every big law office. Many offices and employers will not register for OCI. This may be because they do not hold formal summer programs, because they recruit only at a small number of schools, or because they prefer to fill their class via the free market. Let's stop to make an important note here. That is not to say that your chances of receiving an offer at a firm that does not recruit with Georgetown are low. Indeed, there may be excellent opportunities that exist outside of the OCI process. Whatever the reason, these firms must be pursued directly. It is not always the case that smaller firms, especially mid-sized firms with offices dotted throughout a particular region of the country, will wait until after OCI to recruit. In many cases, they begin their recruiting informally as the OCI season heats up. Consider strongly staying broad in your search by keeping these firms in your plans. You can always decline an offer should something preferable materialize. But should OCI not pan out for whatever reason, it is difficult to go back to begin the recruiting process with an employer that has been meeting with candidates already. Students give themselves the best chance to succeed when they enhance their qualifications, strengthening as many of the 6 factors as possible, and when they are strategic about which employers they target. A balance of these 2 considerations, rather than simply the strength of the candidate, is really what contributes to positive outcomes. For instance, even a candidate who is strong across multiple of the 6 factors will have a harder time landing an offer if they are very narrow in their geographic, selectivity, and practice area targets. The candidate will simply have fewer employers from which to choose. As we highlighted in Private Sector 201, many students are successful at OCI, but an offer is hardly a given. In a typical year, about 60% of participants receive an offer. We encourage you to be thoughtful in how small a universe of employers you consider as part of OCI, especially in light of the market power you can claim based on the different aspects of your candidacy. OCS advisors are well versed in talking through these matters and look forward to helping you arrive at a strategy that fits with your preference and risk profile. We'll end here with a roadmap that pulls together some of the logistics and strategy points we reviewed. You may recognize it if you tuned in to Private Sector 201. We appreciate that this may seem overwhelming, like there are many moving pieces. Please remember that we're here to help. Send your advisor an email or book an appointment to discuss any matters that may be unclear. And don't forget that Canvas is designed to walk you through these steps in more detail. And that's a wrap for this session. We look forward to working with you as your private sector search continues. Thanks so much for tuning in.